Hello there. This is Carol Tudor, and I'm so excited about being here tonight, hoping that technology works. Now, remember, I'm in the middle of the boonies. I'm in a small, dinky little town, and I have no stoplight in my town, which we sort of brag about. But sometimes the Wi-Fi goes off, and sometimes it will flicker and things happen. So Loretta is here on backup, and she's my stage manager tonight, and she's going to help me if it happens. If it happens, we might have to go to Joyous Journey to her page. We'll see. I don't know what happened last time. But let me pray and get started. I'm not going to say a lot of hellos tonight. I got a lot to tell you, and I don't want to make this past 30 minutes. I don't think that's good. I think I should keep it short. Hey, Jackie Dolak and Sipora, my old friend. I see all kinds of names on there. Father, I ask that you give me your mind. You said in Philippians, let this mind be in you, which was in Christ Jesus. Lord, give me your mind tonight. Give all these folks wisdom as they listen. I ask that you guide my mind and help me to stay focused as I follow my notes. I pray, Lord, you'd give us wisdom these days in a world that's very confusing, Lord. I pray you'd give us great wisdom and strength and help us to be in the Word. In Jesus' name, amen. I want to give you some guidelines because a lot of you are asking for help, and I love it. You know, us nurses, we're known as a special breed. The sisterhood. I love sick people, and I went into nursing because I love people. In fact, I was going to be a social worker. My dad didn't want me to be a social worker. He's afraid I'd have to go into some dangerous areas. So I became a nurse, and I still like sick people. And I love the mystery of trying to figure out what's wrong with somebody. I believe God has given me a gift. I got to give him all the credit for being able to diagnose people. But I do that in a special way. Now, I want to say thank you to Mrs. Trieber. She's brought me the California audience, and a lot of people are watching from there. And I'm going to do her subject next week. Next week's going to be all on hormones, and not just female hormones, but the whole body and hormones. I'm going to give you some real help. I'm going to give you some websites. And but tonight I've got some guidelines. I also want to say thank you to Mrs. Vaprazan, Linda Vaprazan. I'm so proud of her. She has sought integrative treatment for cancer, and she is really doing well. And she has encouraged me to start my own YouTube channel. And if and when I can get Jeannie Mae Walker Churchill to help me, me and my husband and I may be doing that. And so she said that, of course I could have my own little studio, do my YouTube, and then you can just go there and watch them. It doesn't have to be live. I don't know. The technology has to get worked out. But I appreciate Mrs. Vaprazan saying that. I also appreciate that she went to a nutritionist and dropped like 40 pounds before she ever found out she had cancer. She's looking great. She's done some integrative medicine, which is what I believe in. And so I want to thank her, because I wouldn't even think of having a YouTube channel. Please, me, Carol Fry Tudor, Country Bumpkin, I didn't even think of that. And there's so many people that do health now, and there's so many people that do green smoothies. I feel like, why should I teach you that stuff? You hear it everywhere. Dr. Oz, there's all kinds of stuff. My last thing is to thank the walkers. Jeannie Mae came over a couple nights ago. My husband, by the way, if you're not friends with my husband, Richard Edward Tudor, or Monarch Bible Ministries, he's going to start they're only going to be 15 minutes short Bible studies on the Bible. How we got our Bible, is it the real Bible, it's going to be really good. And we're getting our own tripod, we're working on all that, getting it set up, and I just got to say thank you to the Walkers for taking time. They're very, very busy right now on some personal projects, and they've had a couple deaths in the family. They've had some real trials right now. And if you think of them, pray for them. If you lose me, please do not send me 100 messages that you lost me. Please do. Guidelines. Please do not advertise what you're selling on my page. You got to remember, I'm a licensed RN. I want to be real careful with this. I'm not worried about what the government thinks, okay? And by the way, I'm not going to get political tonight. I may do that some other time. But for example, please don't put your health information, your medical history on my Facebook page. Somebody got on there and said they were diabetic. Well, your health history is personal, and there's a HIPAA Act. I'm not supposed to be talking about somebody's health history online. Now, I am a retired nurse, and so I don't think that I would get in trouble. But I want to be very cautious with your life and your temple. I don't want to just take it flippantly. You can private message me, and a lot of you have. I went through some messages that I missed By the way, with me, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. I will take some requests. I have already done some counseling where people have very generously given me a love offering. Send me a PM for a request, and what I do is I give you my phone number, then we text each other and we set up, because I don't know where you are in the country, we set up a time that works for both of us. Now, some of you just want to ask me, give me this vitamin, give me that vitamin, what should I take? Well, I can't advise you unless I've got a medical history. You know, that's not saying very much for my respect of you or your respect of your own temple. Everyone has a medical history. And I could be and by the way, some of you are on medications. And thankfully, my husband and I are on, I think I'm on one med and he's on two meds. He's 76 and I'm 70. We don't want to be on meds. Now, we're on a lot of supplements. And supplements can interact with things. Therefore, I can't just toss off a vitamin you need. Someone was questioning, something I said because they're a diabetic. Well, you can't take all my advice. Online, I'm going to give general principles right now. But personally, I would give plenty of advice. So I have to have that medical history. That takes about an hour. And so why I ask for a love offering is that by the time I question you, take a very good medical history, we chat, I know what you're on. What I basically do is I give you some options. I don't diagnose you, but I give you some options. Had a very good phone call with a girl who has lupus from California. Very good phone call. And we did a three-way with her mom, and I. And through that interview, she's a young girl and has some really serious health problems. We through that interview, I went through and questioned her, and we talked, and I gave her some options of ways that she could get better health. We're looking for wellness. We're not looking to cure diseases. We're not looking for just to take medicines for things. A lot of you, you get some help with your sinuses. That's great. But why is a 9-year-old kid having allergies? Why is an 8-year-old kid having cancer? We got to get to the root of a lot of these problems. And so and I don't mind at all. I can't always get to everybody as fast as they need me. But PM me if you want an appointment. Mrs. Trieber suggested many years ago that I ask for a love offering. I don't like to give a number because some poor girl out in Montana, she was a missionary's kid. She only had a small amount of money, but she gave me a small amount of money. And it does help me since I am not working and I'm a senior citizen. And I would like to fly up to Indiana to see my grandkids. And so anything that you do for me is going to go in my bank account to help me go see my grandkids. So, again, no personal health info on my page. General topics, by the way, I want any requests for what you want me to teach. Mrs. Trieber's in there first about hormones. Next week I'm going to discuss thyroid and progesterone, PMS issues, etc. A lot of moodiness and depression. Going to talk about that next week, real extension. The next thing I need for you to understand is our medical system is very complex and it does not work very fast. That's part of the problem with not getting answers. Now, I've said this before, the USA has the best trauma surgeons, knee and hip replacement. We have some of the best in the world. But we have a lot of issues dealing with chronic illness, like Epstein-Barr, lupus, mono, chronic fatigue, diabetes, Lyme disease. There's a lot of chronic illness where you can't cut on the person. And when they do start cutting, the person doesn't get better. And so what you're going to have to do is realize that the medical system is broken. Just to give you a little bit of background on it, I took a coding class. Every disease has a code number. This is how the government this is how your insurance and your whole system works. Example, diabetes used to be 25000, 250. And so when I would go to a patient's house and I would interview them and I would take down their medical history, I would put all these codes in which help the insurance companies pay us, pay for physical therapy, whatever we were doing for this person. So when you go to a doctor, he's supposed to take a thorough medical history and put down all these codes. Well, the Affordable Care Act changed everything. And we only had about 19,000 codes. Well, thank you to the last administration, we went from 19,000 codes to 68,000 codes. So like when you go to an emergency room because you got bit by a squirrel, the emergency room doctor has to look through massive amount of codes. And the codes are now intricate. They're not just 2500. The codes are not, if you had a kidney stone on the right side, you have to have that has to be right, R or L has to be in there. So the codes are like, 168.23H. The codes are real intricate. Hard to find, not real clear, very obtuse. When we changed systems, I took a 7-hour class, worked for a wonderful company. I wish Mike Dotson would listen to this. He was my boss. They were very good to us. And they paid me to take in-service classes, and that code system was life-changing. And so that code system has caused us to have these doctors look at their computer instead of looking at you. Just to tell you my latest, I went to find a DO in another town, and he never once looked me in the eye. He did not touch me. He did not take my blood pressure. He did not examine me. The girl who interviewed me took my history and took my blood pressure. He never once looked me in the eye. He looked at his computer. He did this. The whole time he was talking to me, he did this. And therefore, I will not be going back. I'm trying to find a DO. Now, he did order my labs, and I did find out some good news. So all of my labs looked really good. And I hope he ordered a bone density test. I haven't heard yet, but I think I need one of those. It's non-invasive because I'm 70, and I like to know if I've got some thinning of the bones. And so I understand where you're at. And when you just keep going back and taking more medicine or trying different supplements and you don't get anywhere, it's because we haven't gotten to the real root of the problem. Doctors are too busy with the medical system now to read and keep up on things. So we're going towards socialized medicine. Now, there's a lot of things that are good about that for a Christian because we're spiraling. In fact, it's an exciting time to be alive, isn't it? A lot of things going on, and God is at work. We're spiraling towards the end times. I mean, it's exciting. The Lord is going to come back. I don't know when. I'm not saying, but it's exciting. And so, but because of our very difficult, complex, obtuse medical system, the doctors, they can't, insurance won't cover certain tests. So you may need an MRI, but they'll only give you a CAT scan. Okay? Well, an MRI shows a lot more detail than a CAT scan does. I know people that go into surgery and they only could get a CAT scan, and surprise, the doctor found something they didn't know they were going to find because they didn't get all of the pre-medical workup. And that's because our insurances aren't paying for things, and that's because so many people don't have insurance because of the Affordable Care Act. I want you to understand that because that it's not all the doctor's fault. And I don't like when we put doctors down. I know that our system is obtuse, it's complex, it's broken. And so because of that, we have drugs that are, I had patients paying $500 a month for drugs. And this is a retired person who's 85 years old. I mean, we have a situation here that is going to be something that you're not going to get the help you want. If you do, you're blessed. It's sort of like when you have a broken down car. You really want to trust where you take your car, don't you? Because this is the practice of medicine, and most of it is guesswork. And so when you go in, and like I said, I'm looking for a doctor, a DO, even though I have 2 healthcare professionals, and they're basically who I'm following right now. But there are certain lab tests that I can't get through my healthcare professionals. I have to go to a regular doctor. But don't keep going back to a doctor who doesn't look at you, doesn't examine you, doesn't talk to you. You've got to like your doctors. I had a heart patient once, and he was telling me, actually he's a friend in a church, and he was telling me that the last time he saw his heart doctor, that she screamed at him. That would be the last day she would ever talk to me. We don't need doctors and nurses screaming at patients. We need to treat people with respect, and they need to treat us with respect. Don't go back to some doctor who's chewed you out and called you names and lost their temper. And this man he had a heart transplant. He's already got a bad heart. Well, what do you think a doctor yelling at us is going to do to us? Causes terrible stress. And stress is one of the leading causes of illness today. So think twice before you go into the system. And many times, I just had a friend, the person has fluid in their lung. And the doctor said, I don't know why it's there. Here's a drug for it. Well, boy, I'd be finding out what was in my lung. There needs to be some more testing done. And I would be checking out and going to another doctor. And so, if that's where you're going. DOs, again, doctor of osteopathy is what you want. I wrote down a couple other things about places to go, but integrative medicine, biomeridian scans, functional medicine doctor. There are now licensed wellness doctors. There's actually a wellness college where people go to college to learn wellness type medicine, which is a different approach than traditional medicine. There's a licensed nutritionist. Mrs. Vaprizan was very good. She was showing me how she researched and found her licensed nutritionist. There's a methylation doctor. Can't explain all those, but those are the names you could look up. By the way, those of you that want answers, use your phone for research. I used to be the queen of research. I always came home from the library with 20, 30 books on a subject. When I was teaching at Hyles-Anderson College in 1993, I was amazed at how tired the college girls were. They were always so tired. And I go, why are you more tired? And I'm twice as old as you, and I have more energy than you do. Well, I had a better diet because we know how college kids eat. But I started studying fatigue, and I also went to Dr. Cal Streeter, who's a DO, and I started learning from him, and I found out that one of the major causes of fatigue is very severe hypothyroidism in America. We have a real problem with hypothyroidism, and it's not diagnosed well. I'm going to talk about that next week. Chronic fatigue, being cold, there's 5 basic symptoms that go with that. Well, I started studying. Folks, you've got a whole library in your hand. And I was talking to Mrs. Muchler this week and Mrs. Trieber, and they said that young people are not researching. I know you're young mothers, bless your hearts. You ladies are busy. And I have an adopted daughter, and she is trying to help those kids, and she's homeschooling, and she is busy. But I know you've got some time. You watch movie or TV or the news or something, Facebook. I know that people have time. I would be researching everything. My husband is a Vietnam vet. Thankfully, he didn't have to shoot anybody. But he's got some heavy metal toxicity, and it's beginning to, it's probably, I did not know it. We did not know it until we got to Missouri. But it's showing its ugly head, and we are trying to find out some things we want to do for that. What does that come from? Immunizations, of which he had probably 30 in the Air Force, minimum. Mercury fillings in the teeth. Some of the stuff is in the foods. He painted. He was a maintenance. He did maintenance and cleanup. He was when he was an associate pastor, he did a lot of the care of the buildings. And you get exposed to chemicals that can cause chemical and heavy metal toxicity, which does affect us. It affects cognition. It affects very many systems. And so I'm doing a lot of research on that. And just, start using your phone and start, one of the first things you need to do is research wellness clinic or wellness doctors near me and figure out where you can find one. A lot of you asked, and you're not going to be real happy with this week because I'm only going to talk 30 or 35 minutes. I'm not going to go into one big subject. But I wanted to lay the groundwork. I also wanted to give you some guidance and understanding of the medical system. The Bible says my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. You need to understand where we are in America with the medical world. And so it's very important because you may not get you wonder why you can't get answers, or you wonder why you get put on another drug. I have friends that are on 3 and 4 blood pressure medicines. Why? There's got to be something there that's not being addressed. And even EMFs, most of you, a lot of you that are on the computers 6-7 hours a day, you should be having something that protects you from EMFs. I have this magnet, and I put it in pockets and this protects me from the EMFs on my phone. And I do use my phone quite a bit, and I'm getting ready, hopefully, to get a small computer so I can do even more research. But I listen to podcasts. I read a lot. I easily read a couple thousand pages a month. But did you know EMFs, exposure, long-term exposure, I'm talking about you people that have been on computers 20, 30 years, you should be having some kind of protection. It can cause high blood pressure. It can cause memory loss. It can cause cataracts, problems with your eyes. I'm not even giving you the full list. I'll show you my book one day when I talk about it. but you need protection with EMFs. Okay, that's a magnet I have, and but there's a grounding. You can go to earthgrounding.com and look about getting yourself grounded if you're a person who uses a computer for several hours a day. I am going to answer a couple questions that people put on my timeline. And one of the things I wanted to say was people repeatedly ask me what supplements to take. Where do I buy my supplements? Where do I get them? That is an interesting question. I have now found out that some of our supplements, quite a few, are made in China and on Amazon. Have you ever I've gotten bottles of stuff and seen no difference. Now the problem with that is, one, either it's not the right supplement. Two, it's not the right amount. You have the right dose. Three, you didn't take it the right way. Okay? I have a pill I have to take. It's called protease. I take it. It's for digestion problems, but I have to take it on an empty stomach first thing in the morning. Can't tell you what that's done for me. Now, when I first started taking it, I didn't like it. It made my stomach feel weird. But now I'm seeing a big improvement. Okay, but I did not know about that. I got that knowledge from my healthcare professional. She prescribed it. So a lot of you, write me, text me, PM me. Where should I buy? What should I buy? Well, I have some companies that I deal with, but the only reason I know what to buy is because I have a healthcare professional helping me know what to do. Now, somebody's asking me where I got my magnet. I got it from my healthcare professional, Sheila in Bolivar, Natural Wellness, and she sold it to me, and I've asked her for information on it. My husband and I both carry them. We wear them all day. You need to start doing your research. I said grounding.com. One of the girls on the ranch, she has a system where she grounds herself, at night. You have to be grounded. And so, some people are more sensitive to EMFs than others. I believe, my husband, when he was writing his book, he was typing and spending hours on the computer. That, in combination with the heavy metals, has affected him. When we'd like him not to have to go on any more medication, and we're really working. I'm really working to clear our bodies out of things that are causing problems. The first thing you want to do, and remember my second video, you are what you fill in the blank. Somebody type me the word. You are what you eat. And, the first thing to change above everything, including supplements, is food. The second thing to change is exercise. And I've had to, even though I do my house cleaning, my grocery shopping, I take my pacer on my phone, and I do 2 miles. When I go do my shopping at Sam's, between Sam's and Mama Jean's, which is the big health food store in Springfield, by the time I get home, I've done 2 miles, including what I've done in my house. And so you've got to, okay, but even then I have to do more. Because I've got to get oxygen, I got to get deep breathe in, I got to move my body. Now, if you're moving your body a lot, you're in good shape. Those are the first 2 things to do before supplements. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put some names of some companies on my page. But again, I want to say, you're not going to know what to take unless you talk to a healthcare professional. You're not going to know the amount to take, etc. Okay? So why I know what I know is I either learned it from Dr. Streeter, Dr. Dennis Streeter, Dr. Cal Streeter. They're both located in Maryville, Indiana. Or I learned it from my nurse here in Bolivar and my doctor in Bolivar and my nurse in Springfield. So you can't just, okay, I have a stomach ache, I'm going to go on Amazon and take something. I can't guide you that way. Again, I'd want to talk to you and take a medical history. So, interesting thing enough, I said this to my nurse Evelyn, who's in Springfield. I said, I had 4 things written down. Me, the nurse. I didn't even have stress down. I didn't have anything about my lifestyle. I said, out of these 4 things, and these are the 4 things, diet, exercise, cleansing or detox, and supplements, those 4 things. I said, out of those 4 things, would you put them in order? What's most important? She looked at my list and she eyeballed me and she goes, the number 1 thing that's the most important is how you feel about your own well-being and your partner, the person you live with. Whoa! I stood corrected. So number 1 is the stress we have on ourselves about how we're doing well-being in our lives, spiritually, emotionally. Are you learning how to handle your stress? Your spouse. Are you at peace with your spouse? Then number 2 is diet. Number 3 is exercise. Number 4 is cleanse/detox. And 5 is supplements. Last. So unless we take things in order and fix the things in the right order, you're not going to get well. And so I can't just I'm not a doctor who you're calling and saying, I need this for this, and I need this for this, and tell me what to take, and tell me. And then I want to be careful. I'm not making any money by recommending different companies. And so therefore, and some of the companies, let's take Swanson's. I like Swanson's. I've used Swanson's. But there are products at Swanson's that when you get the product, it's cheap, but maybe in the capsule, it's only 25% of the stuff, and the other is 75% filler. I don't know. So therefore, I do know stinging nettle from Swanson's works. And so I've had to spend money and take stuff I didn't trust or I tried. I'm now finding out, I'm doing research, that some of our supplements, a lot of them are made cheap in China. What do they have in them? I don't know. My husband goes, but Carol, if it's an American company and they're doing it, I go, I know. But now I have no idea. I've got to find out the facts. I do know some good companies, and I'm going to post a list under this video, so it'll be there for you. Self-diagnosis can be dangerous. You don't. I'm going to give. If you call me, I'm going to give you guidance, sort of like a coach you through the medical system. This young girl who's got a bad case of lupus, we hashed out what her symptoms were, where she's going. I gave her some options. She's been back and forth with me, and that's why we do Love Offering. We've texted a lot, we've emailed, and now she's finally found a wellness doctor who does the biomeridian scan, and that's in San Diego. And so there are people out there. You've got to seek, you've got to research, you've got to dig. It's just like I talk about the Bible. My husband and I read the Bible every day, and we try to do an hour and 15 minutes every day. And the Bible says, study to show yourself approved. I thought that was for pastors. I thought pastors are supposed to study. I'm not. I'm just going to do my duty reading. Well, no, God wants us to dig. That's why it's not alphabetized. He could have alphabetized everything. He could have been A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It could have been just like anybody else, because alphabetized, you find things easier. No, he wants us to dig for those jewels. Well, now, sadly, with our healthcare system, you don't get answers real easy. That's why I'm willing to try and coach you through it, answer questions, give you the options. I can give you like 4 options. Here's what I think you should do. I've read 5 very intense books about what my husband and I found out about what we had in Missouri. And I'm going to talk about those in the next 6 weeks. I am going to, and I think it's awesome that you're listening to me. I feel blessed. I feel excited about this. I told Loretta, I said, I love helping people. Look, everything that's happened to me, if I can help somebody, I want to. And I love my Christian brothers and sisters, and there's people on here that I've met that weren't my students. There's a lot of my students, former students, but I have a wide audience of people listening. I feel very blessed that God has let me use my 50-year nursing career. And I was a hospice nurse. I worked for Dr. Streeter at a holistic, integrative office. I've worked in different types of medicine, which has been a blessing. But there's 5 invaders, and this is what causes disease. Okay, 5 invaders. 1 is bacteria, 2 is virus, like as in mononucleosis, Epstein-Barr, COVID, flu virus A, flu virus B. 3 is parasites, which includes worms and amoebas. 4 is fungus, and 5 is mold. Now, next week's topic is going to be hormones, and it's all going to. And I guarantee you, if you have any problem with fatigue or depression and anxiety. Anxiety is off the wall right now, and a lot of anxiety and panic attacks are because of no thyroid function or low thyroid function. And I will be discussing hormones next week. Then I'm going to take all 5 of the invaders. I'm going to do 1 a night, and I'm going to tell you about what I've learned. And it's all fresh material. I'm amazed at what's out there that we don't know, that we medical people have no concept of. and where you can get them. And here's the thing, just like this thing with COVID, and I'll close on this. I think I'm about 30 minutes. Okay, why people die? Because medical history. People who have what they call comorbidities. Comorbidities are things that are a disease you have that could lead to death. For example, my husband has a comorbidity. He's got COPD. Some from medical history, some from his social history, some from being in the service. And so he could catch it, and if he did, it would be really hard for his lungs to get well. Along with the fact that our doctors are inexperienced about how to treat this virus. It's a whole new type of thing. Don't want to go into any of the ramifications about it, but I want to say that those comorbidities, diabetes, heart disease, COPD, any type of immune dysfunction, I consider myself, in fact, I wanted to volunteer, but my immune system is compromised. I'm a cancer survivor. I can't give blood because I've had cancer. Once you've had cancer, you can't donate. I can't donate my organs. I would love to donate my organs. I just lost a good friend, and he gave 9. He was only 48, bless his heart. And he was killed in it was a tree. They were trimming a tree. He was killed in an accident. Stephen Meister, and they gave away 9 of his organs. Thank the Lord for that. 9 people. What a blessing. I can't do that because I've had cancer. And so once those comorbidities, and a young person, I saw on the front lines, one of the doctors passed away when he was a cancer patient. He'd taken chemo. He was in his 40s, but he had a compromised immune system. If you have a compromised immune system, if you have any what they call comorbidities, your medical history, well, then you're going to suffer things a little differently. And when I talk next week about hormones and thyroid, I'm going to explain to you, people with thyroid problems often have low immunity. They often have panic attacks, and they have what they call a cold brain syndrome. So when I go into these next 6 weeks, unless something special happens, I'm going to try to spend one whole 30-minute time on each subject, which won't do it justice. But I got a lot of help. Just think about this. Why would a kid 9 years old have migraines and he has to lay in a car during church? I'm going to guess it's parasites. And kids can get them really easy. But no one thinks to test for that because it's not, I don't even know if there's probably an ICD code for it. But for example, Lyme isn't recognized as a disease. It's not considered, in fact, I have a friend who was in Washington, D.C. about 6 weeks ago trying to get them to recognize Lyme as give it a code and make it a disease process. So that's my conclusion for today, and I can't believe it. It didn't go off on me. I'm so excited. And you know what? I just wanted to say, change that diet. While you're waiting for me to give you more answers, get on those greens. I bought a thing of lettuce this big, $2.89. Our right here in Bolivar, we have people raising organic lettuce. Now you go find those farmers markets. Get on the phone and research. Find the farmers markets. See if you can find a wellness doctor. Because you know what? The devil wants us sick. If we're sick, we don't want to go sewing. We don't want to rejoice. We don't want to read our Bible. We don't want to be good to people because he wants us sick. And so we want to be well. And you know what? If something like this has happened to me with all the things that have happened to me, Lyme, chronic Lyme, I found out when I got to Missouri 8 weeks ago. I want to be a blessing to other people, and so do you. We got to get you some help. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next Tuesday at 6 o'clock CST. Bye-bye.